Hey, I'm Ben Silverio.
And I'm Ansel Burch.
And it's time
to
party.
We're not doctors. We don't give medical advice. Please drink responsibly. This episode was recorded on November 26th, 2023.
I mean, I guess it probably would have been better if I was singing Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Right?
You know, you'll have another opportunity, so...
Yeah, you know, that would have been fitting because, you know, party people, we are back again with another installment of Time to Christmas Party. Our gift to you, the listeners, in an effort to make the end of the year more holly and jolly. Since, you know, 2023 is a flaming pile of poo.
The dumpster just keeps getting fuller.
It's true. It's not going down. But yes,
been on fire long.
So long. It's never going away. If you missed out on our first episode of this month, we took a look at It's a Wonderful Life, a holiday classic. And the whole idea is just to put us all in the holiday spirit by reviewing and remembering some of our favorite bits of some of our favorite Christmas movies. And yeah, I'm sure you were expecting a lot of things like It's a Wonderful Life or Elf or A Christmas Story or all of those, right? Like, oh, surely they're just going to talk about the classics. Well, guess what?
Definitely.
This week, we wanted to talk about Violent Night, which came out in 2022. But in my opinion, it is a new classic.
Definitely.
Yeah, and you know, if you haven't seen it, trust me when I tell you, I was of the mind that this was going to be a frivolous C-list holiday movie. You know, like if you look at the trailers, if you look at the posters, it's easy to write it off and be like, this is dumb.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's just going to be dumb fun. Yeah.
I swear to you, David Harbour as Santa Claus in an elf meets John Wick type of role is sometimes exactly what you need. So if you don't know about Violent Night, here's what our good friends at IMDb tell us. When a group of mercenaries attack the estate of a wealthy family, Santa Claus must step in to save the day and Christmas. Now, we already mentioned David Harbour. He's the star. He plays Santa.
Yep.
There's a lot of awesome performances in this movie, especially from John Leguizamo and Beverly D'Angelo, who goes very much against type. You probably remember her as the mom in the Vacation movies.
Yeah. That's a great pull. Yeah.
Yeah, but behind the scenes, the filmmaker responsible for Violent Night is Tommy Wirkola. You may know him from movies such as Dead Snow and What Happened to Monday. But I think the biggest thing that people will probably know from him is Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters. So he really has a way of like taking established lore and making it more badass.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Like, sure, Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters probably isn't the best movie, but like he tried to do something different with it, and like I respect that.
He made an action movie out of Hansel and Gretel, and I think that's all you need to know.
Yeah, about
his credentials.
It's true. And along with him on the producing side of things, it was I don't want to give you the wrong name. It's David Lech. That's right. And if that name doesn't sound familiar to you, he was also one of the people who worked on John Wick, Atomic Blonde, and Deadpool 2. So, like, his resume of these badass beat down scenes, you know, he's qualified.
Mm-hmm. He's seen a few of them here and there.
Yeah, exactly. Arguably the best ones. But let's go back to the David Harbour of it all. Ansel, how do you think David Harbour compares in terms of cinematic Santas?
I think that it's really interesting to have somebody who's playing Santa who's past it and over it, but actually looks a lot like the Santa we expect. A lot of the modern Santas we've had, they don't have that like apple of the cheek, sparkle eye look that we were kind of set up to expect as kids from like the Rankin and Bass specials that we're going to cover later in the month. And David Harbour has that face shape. Like David Harbour fits the like what Santa's supposed to look like criteria that were in my head. And yeah, I mean they had to paste a beard on him and stuff, but I think he did a really
see him
good
with a
job
beard,
of
right?
like. What's that?
Don't we normally see him with a beard? I guess a goatee.
I think we've seen him with a beard and without a beard. Like I think about Stranger Things at the very beginning, and I think he just had a mustache.
Oh, right. Okay.
But the long beard that they put on him, like really, I mean, it works. It works.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a very compelling Santa, which is a thing I was not prepared to say before I watched this movie.
Absolutely. So from one,
what about you? Did he meet you with your Santa expectations?
Absolutely. I mean, we saw how caring he can be in Stranger Things. So he has that inherent, love of children and protectiveness. But he something about his laugh and his smile kind of says Santa. I think he does a really good job of bringing both of those things to the table. Yeah, you covered it. That look is just so spot on, right?
David Harbour's got a twinkle.
It's true. He does. But he's also that rugged badass.
Yeah.
And I mean, part of what makes Violent Night so interesting is that they established this backstory of Santa being like this Norse warrior with a hammer called Skull Crusher. And I mean, yeah, that may not be a Santa myth that we've heard before, but it is kind of based in historical accuracy, right?
Is it? This is do tell. Go on.
No, well, I mean, like I remember reading an article or something where like elements of that, are kind of true. Of the Norse recollection of things, but also I have a feeling.
Sure. I guess if you look back at the origins of Christmas being on Yule celebrations, and then I guess there's an argument to be made that like it makes sense that if there is a spirit of Christmas that goes back to ancient days, early medieval days, then a Viking or Viking adjacent era fighter makes as much sense as anything for a Yuletide protector or Yuletide symbol or agent.
It's almost like Jason Momoa as Aquaman. You wouldn't expect Aquaman to be a Pacific Islander, but when he is one, it's like, oh, obviously, you know?
That's a very good point.
Yeah. I I don't know as much about Santa lore as I do superheroes, but I'm sure somebody could or will at us and be like, what are you talking about?
Well, the
But it
thing
makes
about
sense,
Santa
right?
lore, though, it does. It does. The thing about Santa lore is we made most of it up within the last century.
Yeah. Like the myth of Santa wearing primarily red, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't that a
Yep,
Coca-Cola
that's all
thing?
new. I think, yeah, primarily Coca-Cola is my understanding. Even just like the centralization of everything on Santa is a 1950s 1930s 1950s marketing thing that sort of like built off of a conglomeration of myths. But from I read an article recently that I'm not going to remember very well, but they were talking about how, yeah, prior to the 1900s, there was not like a singular Santa Claus myth that anyone would point to. And even like Saint Nicholas, the religious figure, the conflation of those two people wasn't a thing prior to that. And these, Father Christmases and all of that stuff were all generally a less part of the celebration. Like I think the German Father Christmas is just like a sidekick to Krampus, if I remember correctly from that article. So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting that that's something we all stuck onto as a way to secularize this holiday.
Do you feel like those parents who say that telling their kids about Santa is lying to them? Do you feel like that's accurate?
Oh, the Miracle on 34th Street of it all. I don't know that I would say it's lying so much. It's definitely, telling them something that's not true. But I don't know. As with a lot of things that we do societally that are meant to be formative morality tales or formative experiences, letting the child experience the fullness of the event or situation is more important than them fully understanding it. It's like science class.
Mm-hmm.
Third grade science class, they don't expect you to understand how any of that crap works. They're going to say the words at you, but you don't need to understand molecular density. You don't need to understand chemical reactions. But if you get to see the baking soda and the vinegar react, then you're going to go, well, that's cool. And maybe pay some more attention to science class from that point forward until some of it gets stuck. And I think that's, these morality tales that we tell, these ideas of like, yeah, you should be good because, because there's like a spirit of giving that's important to this season. I think there's a relevance to that. Granted, it also has this like panopticon, be good because someone's watching vibe to it. That's pretty harmful, I think. You should be good because it's good to be good, not sure. You should be good because
you want presents.
Well, because the Overlord will see and you won't get presents.
See,
the all-seeing eye of the claws is upon you.
The claws. But the thing about Santa for me that I think is fun, I think I discovered at a pretty young age that Santa was a real person, and part of this myth is based on that. But then it's like suspension of disbelief can be fun, right?
Sure.
And part of the Santa experience is embracing suspension of disbelief. Whether the kids know it or not at the time, right? So it's like, I don't know if it's a lie, but like, it's as much of a lie as it is to be like, oh, hey, we're going to Disneyland to meet Mickey Mouse. You know? Like, it's just part of the magic of embracing a story. And I think I've always appreciated that about the Santa tradition. Even to an extent when organized religion was part of my thing. It was like, yeah, it's there is some good in it. And it can teach you something, and can give you a good feeling. But when those things get too extreme is when the problem starts to arise, right? Like, if you're only good because you want Santa to bring you something, then you're missing the point.
Yeah. Well, and it does, like you're saying, it goes back to the shared stories. And I think you hit on a lot of good points that sort of lead to that. The going to meet Mickey Mouse, the believing in Santa, the believing in your Lord and Savior who died on a cross, and all of that business. These are shared stories that give us all a point of reference if we are in that community. And yeah, so Santa's one of those, and I don't know that it counts the same as lying to tell a story. Heck, that's why I got into acting.
Right.
That said, we do as a society spend a lot of time pretending that this is actual reality and not just a story. So like, okay, I can see the argument. But going back to my reference to Miracle on 34th Street, that is the thing that they focus on, right? Like, the reason that Kris Kringle takes issue with Susie not believing in Santa Claus isn't because she doesn't believe in him. It's because she doesn't have an imagination. And teaching her to have an imagination is the thing that he focuses on.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, that's a very good point that you're making, that like, it is about storytelling. It's about having that fantasy, having that suspension of disbelief, even if it is like specific to this holiday and maybe fraught with a couple layers of problematic trapping.
Yeah. And, it particularly comes in handy in Violent Night when, what's the character's name? The little girl.
Oh, yeah.
Trudy. When Trudy gets the walkie-talkie from her dad because he forgot to take her to meet Santa at the mall. So he gives her a special walkie-talkie where she can talk to Santa, and it just so happens that Dave Harbour Santa finds it, or at least
happens to be there,
finds the right channel on the walkie-talkie and does talk to her. But she, because of her belief in Santa, she helps save her family. Also, because she watched Home Alone the night before. Man, let's talk about some of those kills.
Oh my god,
because there's so many good ones in this movie.
The way that this movie embraced all of the holiday tropes, including Home Alone and including even the Santa Claus to a certain extent, it really made it a Christmas movie for our time in a lot of ways. But
I certainly got a lot
traps.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I certainly got a bit of bad Santa vibes. Even someone a Santa who is over it, who's like an elf who's wondering if the holiday spirit even exists anymore. You know,
Yeah.
you get all of those elements in this.
I mean, that goes all the way back to The Year Without a Santa Claus,
Mm-hmm.
which, I'm a spoiler, we're going to talk about later in the month. But yeah, the whole like, people don't give a shit about me. Do I really need to keep doing this? Like that's a vibe. I mean, that's a George Bailey vibe.
It's
honestly.
such a George Bailey vibe. Gosh. Well, I mean, it's a good thing that George Bailey and Santa continued.
Yup.
Because, you know, if he didn't, then Santa wouldn't get to use his beloved hammer again. Honestly, I think that was my favorite fight scene in this.
I mean, with good reason. It was so perfect. And I mean, it shows that they had people who have worked on projects like John Wick and Atomic Blonde. You know, the ability to build multiple like awesome, hard, like incredibly visceral fight scenes that all build towards one absolute kick-ass fight scene in the snow with lots of blood and explosions and flashbacks. You know, that practice shows in this movie. And the fact that they did it while also being like a silly Christmas movie is all the more impressive, I think.
Absolutely. And it's just so incredibly violent. So violent.
I was not prepared for the amount of blood that would be on the screen. I thought it was going to be more like cutaway and then result, you know, kind of like Home Alone, where it's like,
Sure.
Oh yeah, you see the iron hit Merv in the head, and then you see the burn, but you never saw like the blood all over the floor or, you know, whatever. This was a whole other level.
Yeah. You know, honestly, when I first saw it, I was expecting like Santa's Slay, SLAY, starring Bill Goldberg.
Yes.
You know, which is like a movie that's so bad it's good that you keep watching with your friends when you want to watch something goofy at Christmas time. But this is like legitimately good. Like, it's not even bad.
Yeah.
It's so good it's good.
Just a good movie.
Yeah. Do you think that Violent Night will endure as a holiday classic from here on out?
I do. I think Violent Night is going to join Die Hard in the like adult Christmas movie pantheon. It's a little bit more schmaltzy than Die Hard, so like it'll definitely be the you know, more saccharine of the two, which is a weird thing to say. But yeah, I think that this absolutely has a place in the adult Christmas movie pantheon. I think the only question will be if being an adult movie will hurt its longevity. Because so many of our Christmas movies are ones that you're like indoctrinated into as a kid, like either because, you know, they play It's a Wonderful Life on your local NBC station every single year, 5 times a year, or because, you know, Elf is super accessible for children, or, you know, whatever it is. Violent Night isn't going to have that advantage.
Sure. But I think it'll maintain popular with the young adult crowd. You know, like the before Christmas break movie. You know, like you're hanging out at the dorms with your friends before going home for break, and I mean, this could lend itself to our audience pretty well, because there are a lot of excuses to drink or smoke.
Yup.
Honestly,
that's a
like,
solid set. That's as good a segue as we're gonna get, my friend.
I know, right? Look at that. It's like we've been doing this for a while. But yes, since we are not doing edutainment this month, because who needs homework over Christmas break, we thought that we'd still give you some drinking and smoking rules as a treat, because you've all been good little boys, girls, and however you identify yourself.
Mm-hmm. Good little kids.
Yeah. So, I mean, I had one rule that I think would carry you ththrough the whole thing. And,
do tell.
I was going to make my rule take a drink every time John Leguizamo uses a Christmas imagery as in like a mean way. You know, like his whole crew is named after Christmas items. You know, he uses Christmas almost like as a weapon, you know, throughout the movie. It's the puns from him specifically. Like, I think having a drinking rule centered on John Leguizamo's character's hate for Christmas would really carry you through the entire movie.
That is so funny because that was gonna be my rule as well.
No way.
I wasn't gonna phrase it that way. Mine was gonna be every time you learn a new name for one of the characters on John Leguizamo's crew, because they are all, you know, tinsel and holly and whatever.
Jingle, gingerbread, candy cane.
What a choice. What a choice.
Yes.
So instead, I will offer go ahead and take a drink every time Santa kills somebody. Which happens enough that you could really
so much.
You could do okay just with that one rule.
Yeah.
Or maybe just when every time Santa finishes a fight with someone. Maybe,
there you go.
Maybe we don't have to kill them. But yeah, he finishes quite a lot of fights.
It's true.
With varying degrees of violence.
And I'd like to have a smoking rule because the family, the Lightstones, are insufferable. They're terrible, except for Trudy, obviously. But I think you could totally take a hit every time you are annoyed by one of the Lightstones, like Jason's nephew, Burch, because the daughter couldn't name her son Gertrude after her mother to suck up.
That would be wild.
Instead, Bertrude.
Jesus.
Or when the daughter's boyfriend, the himbo movie star, starts talking about 9/11. Oh my god! Just want to deck his halls.
So take a hit every time they're the worst.
Yeah, pretty much.
I was also going to throw out there, maybe take a shot, because it doesn't happen enough, but it does happen a few times. But I think this is a good shot rule. Every time there's a direct and obvious reference to another Christmas movie.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that. I mean, Die Hard, whatchamacallit? Die Hard, Home Alone. There's so many. They bring up a bunch. But I was also going to propose a shot rule. As we like to do here at Time to Party, we like to pay our respects, you know, and I think that Beverly D'Angelo deserves our respect and should be cheersed by all. So take a shot for Beverly D'Angelo.
I support that.
I mean,
whenever you feel moved.
Absolutely. She had to put up with Chevy Chase for all those movies, so she deserves it.
That's a great point.
Which is your favorite National Lampoon's Vacation movie?
Oh man, what was the one where they went to the Grand Canyon?
I think that was
Hoover Dam.
Oh no, that was Vegas, right?
Was that Vegas Vacation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Does anyone have any more damn questions?
That one was really good. I felt like Christmas Vacation is a classic for a lot of people, but it never spoke to me.
Sure.
And Vegas Vacation was just like slightly more tolerable for some reason. Like they're funny, don't get me wrong, but they're not like movies I want to watch again. They
Oh,
were fine. They were fine once when I was a teenager in the 90s and early 2000s. But yeah, I don't need them again.
yeah. Well, actually,
Nothing against people who love them,
sure.
but not my jam.
That's actually I have the same answer. Vegas Vacation is my favorite. Um, Partially because I love all the old Vegasy bits, and when Vegas was all about the showmanship and shit like that. But I don't know. I love the little. I put a nickel. I put a quarter in. I won a car. I put a quarter in. I won a car. Like Nick Papagiorgio, and and you know Ellen getting romanced by Wayne Newton. Like it just seemed like such a snapshot of like the Vegas culture when we were growing up, you know? And like I miss a lot of that because like Treasure Island isn't the same anymore. There's no Siegfried and Roy. There's like
Sure.
so much of like the classic Vegas vibe is gone.
Yeah. I mean, Vegas is more about like residencies for washed up musicians from the 90s and gambling, I guess. That's it.
I think it is mostly the gambling now, and like bringing in the big sporting events, like the fights and stuff like that.
Sure.
Because like
They've got a lot of like big event spaces. Yeah.
yeah, and like the Madison Sphere Garden.
Sorry, what?
Okay, have you not heard of this giant sphere?
No.
So basically, it's this huge sphere that like that's a giant video screen like 360 degrees around, and it turns into a bunch of crazy shit like an eyeball or like some other weird stuff. It's nuts.
Oh, that's in Vegas?
Yeah, that's
the
in
one
Vegas.
with the projectors on the outside?
Yes.
I thought that was in Dubai for some reason.
Oh, I think they have one too. I wouldn't doubt it. But yeah, the one in Vegas is I believe U2 was the first band to play there. But they also have like this giant like IMAX movie experience inside.
I mean, sure.
But yeah, no, the fact that they didn't actually call it Madison Sphere Garden is nuts because I think it is owned by MSG.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I just thought it would have been funny to call it Madison Sphere Garden.
I mean, yeah, that's hilarious.
A missed opportunity.
I'd never heard it called that, but yeah, that's great.
But yeah, no, I miss the conversation pits and the big ass drinks and the wild suits and the lounge performers and the fucking pirates on the pirate ship when you're walking down the strip. Hell, even for the for that F1 race that they just had in Vegas, which was a complete flop, by the way. They put the bandstand or the grandstands on the Bellagio fountain. So like they took all of the quintessential Vegasness of Vegas away to make this race course. And it was just pointless. Like what's the point? Why? And they ended up charging a ton of money for these tickets that no one bought. I mean, they did one of these races in Chicago, and look how annoying it was there. So it was,
oh my God.
it was doubly annoying in Vegas because they were actually like blocking off or altering landmarks, not just causing traffic.
At least in Chicago, they just sort of like closed down a bunch of streets and made everything super inconvenient for like a week or whatever.
Yeah. So hopefully, it's funny. I was saying how pointless it would be to go to Vegas from now until the end of the year. And I'm going to Vegas next month.
Are you really?
Yeah, I am. My parents have a timeshare and they got like free, they got like a free stay at one of the resorts, and Vegas is the closest one. So we're going to go to Vegas.
That's nice.
Yeah. The resort is super nice, so I'll probably just hang out there, and I'll go to Old Vegas, like
there you go.
Fremont Street and stuff like that, because I like that stuff.
I've actually never been.
Oh man, you know what
it's
you would
so
love.
Interesting to hear all this like nostalgia from you, because like I mean, I've been to near Vegas. I have a cousin who lives near there. But yeah, never actually went to Vegas.
I think you would enjoy the Neon Museum, where it's basically a neon graveyard of all the old signs from the Strip and around Vegas, and at night they turn them all on.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's a super cool museum. And the Burlesque Hall of Fame is a great museum. Their
you were telling me
guides,
about that. That
yeah,
sounds great.
their guides are extremely knowledgeable and very fun and engaging. Highly recommend checking out the Burlesque Hall of Fame if you can. There is one era of Vegas that I do miss out on that I could have gone to. I just wasn't interested at the time. So they had a Star Trek experience in Vegas.
Oh, yes.
And basically, it was like a recreation of the Enterprise and Quark's bar and things like that. And
I've heard great things about the Star Trek experience.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sad to have missed that as well.
Me too. And the crazy part is, I'm pretty sure I was there when it was a thing. As a kid.
Really?
Yeah, because my family would go to Vegas, a bunch, and I just remember piling into an SUV and having to sit in the very, very back, like in the trunk, because we would all pile in. But yeah, at the time, I wasn't into Star Trek. It wasn't until lockdown that I got into Star Trek. So, but now I love Lower Decks.
Sure.
Lower
yeah.
Decks.
Lower Decks. Lower Decks. Yeah. Lower Decks also got me into Tawny Newsom's podcast.
Oh, she's great.
Which is so good.
I love Tawny Newsom.
Yeah, she's great. She's great.
I found out that Jack Quaid still does improv with his group here in LA.
Really?
Yeah, so I'm trying to catch their next performance. And I'm hoping that the Lower Decks Funko Pops are out by then, so I could have him sign a Boimler. Although I think it would be
sure
a lot.
He'll be thrilled.
I think it would be a lot funnier if I got a Boimler plate and had him sign a plate. Jack Quaid is just so good.
Truly, truly, truly. And did I see that he's in a horror movie now?
Is he?
Quick vamp while I look it up.
Yeah. Jack Quaid is so multi-talented. His stuff on The Boys is really good. But it's just everything that he does now. I know that you've seen the crossover between Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks. We were talking about this, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, incredible.
What a great episode. But yeah, almost similarly to Violent Night, I wasn't expecting to enjoy Lower Decks as much as I do, because it kind of has that Rick and Morty-esque style to it, that's kind of taken over American animation. But once you get beyond the cover, when I reviewed Violent Night for Slash Film, because not to brag or anything, but I got to be at the world premiere of Violent Night at New York Comic Con, which was great. I was in this hall filled with a ton of enthusiastic fans. There was Christmas carolers, and Dave Harbour and John Leguizamo came out, and it was super cool. But as I said in my review, it's really, really hard not to judge a book by its cover sometimes. But there is a rare occasion where the thing ends up being immensely better than you could have ever imagined. And, Violent Night and Lower Decks are kind of that for me, I think.
Interesting. I'll say I thought Lower Decks was going to be great, so I was never surprised about Lower Decks. But Violent Night I thought was going to be a dumb good time, and I was pleasantly surprised by how poignant and thoughtful and fun and impactful it was. And yeah, the fact that I do want to keep watching it every year.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, I think that is the the best thing we can leave this on. And and Jack Quaid was in the most recent Scream.
There it is. That's what it was.
He's the secret villain of the new Scream movie.
Spoilers.
I know. I haven't even seen it. Ha! That's how much I care.
Well, party people, you can find us on the internet. I am at bsilverio20 on Instagram, X, Threads, Blue Sky, etc.
And I am at The Indecisionist on Threads, Blue Sky, and all the meta properties. And if you really want to find me on X, I'm at Indecisionist there.
You can use the hashtag time2party. That's time, the number 2 party, in case you want to join in on the conversation.
Including hashtag time, the number 2 party, all spelled out. Thanks, Warwick.
Hopefully this conversation about Violent Night raised your holiday spirit just a bit and inspired you to take a chance on something that you're not expecting to be good. Because it could be great.
Or at least to crush some skulls.
Absolutely. Because what says Merry Christmas more than crushing skulls? Where do you think the jingle and Jingle All the Way comes from?
That's right.
Skulls. Crushed skulls.
That's right. Skulls.
So, party people, while you go out and find your own skull crusher and the meaning of Christmas, we want to remind you to be excellent to each other.
And party on, dudes.
Why'd you let me keep going?
Why would I stop you?